Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeChara coming to you live from downtown Flushing, New York with another amazing episode of Joe DeChara Presents How to Win at Business. And this episode is brought to you by the world's greatest sponsor, Bedrock University. We have our doors are open. There is no COVID in our classrooms. Tuition is free for the time being, folks. Take advantage of it. Go to bedrockuniversity.com and get free classes by people like Haley Gray on how to build a huge Facebook group, Mike Wolf on team building, John Limbacher, Gina St. George, myself included. It's pretty amazing, to be honest with you, if I don't say so myself. And who am I? I am Joe DeChara, your host. If you don't know me, I am a CPA serial entrepreneur, and I am obsessed. I am, all I ever think about is starting, building, and managing a small business and helping others do it. I am trying to get help for this malady. It's just, from the time I wake up in the morning until I go to sleep, it's like all I could think of. The 25 million sole proprietors that are out there facing extinction without knowing it. And it's become my mission, folks, to help entrepreneurs. I think I got my slides backwards here again, but that's par for the course. I've only done a couple of hundred of these, so I'm still practicing. So let me find the one that, oh yeah, here it is. My goal with this training is to show you ways to make your business simple, fun, and profitable. And tonight, we are going through step 4 of my amazing itty-bitty book on S-corp. Step number 4, SCorp Alternatives. And actually, folks, there's some good news. I'm still working on the proof. The book isn't available yet. Your amazing itty-bitty book on S-corps. But I went through it today with my publisher, and we actually decided to keep step 4. Let's see, step 4 is going to be legal business structure alternatives, because that's what it is. I thought that was like, it didn't sound good. I thought SCorp Alternatives sounded better, but that's not what it is. So it's actually legal business structure alternatives, for the record. So the slide here has to be fixed. I am looking for a very low-cost VA that can help me with this stuff. And just by coincidence, and I didn't even plan this, but just by coincidence, let me just put this up here. I am looking for a world-class VA. And just by coincidence, and if you know me, I don't believe in coincidences. Tomorrow in Mastermind with joedechara.com at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now that's Saturday. If you're watching the replay, and you can give me a hashtag replay, I would appreciate it. If you're watching live now, please give me a hashtag live, and you will have a chance, if you register now, to the unveiling or the launch, I guess, of HireMyVA.com, which is a business that my coach Larry Broughton and his partner Dave Braun put together. And it was like, this is why I say there's no coincidences. I hired Larry as a coach to help me scale my business. And the one thing that was clear to me is, if I want to scale it, I can't be a solo-preneur. I need a team. And so tomorrow, register at mastermindwithjoedechera.com, and you will learn from guys that have been doing it for years. They are experts at this, how to build a team with a world-class VA. You know, I have Elizabeth Frederick, and unless you click my affiliate fee, my affiliate link where I get a 10% commission, she's not available. So, but she is a world-class VA, and I can't say enough about her. But I'm not going to give her, you know, like editing my slides. Although if she's watching this, and she usually does, she might say, "Let me do this for you because you're really no good at it," and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But in any event, you know, there are alternatives. Not everyone should be an S-corp, which in episode 2.1, in step 2.1, I pointed out, not everyone should be an S-corp, and not everyone could be an S-corp. For instance, there are, you know, industries that you can't do business under a corporate entity, or you might have to jump through hoops, like in the finance industry. I just know if you want to do, like if you're a registered investment advisor, I know that you probably got to jump through a lot of hoops, more hoops than what you got to jump through just to get your license. You know, so there are a lot of situations where sole proprietors either can't or shouldn't become an S-corp. And, you know, that's only part of the problem. Now, let me really go back to the crux of the problem, which is the fact that life and business is way too complicated. They have made, and when I say they, I'm talking about the machine, big business, government, all these people, all of these agencies that have their eyeballs on you the minute you become a sole proprietor. And as I pointed out, there are millions of people out there that aren't aware that they are sole proprietors. Millions. And I'll give you an example because I just got off the phone with my nephew yesterday because I learned he went back to school, quit his full-time job. Actually, he was furloughed already, so he's collecting unemployment, I guess. But went back to school full-time, and he signed up as an Uber driver. Well, he didn't know that Uber drivers are self-employed and have to file their taxes as a sole proprietor. You see, part of the smoke and mirrors, folks, in the way that they keep people like my nephew as a sole proprietor is they use different terminology. So they might call somebody an independent contractor. So if somebody's an individual, an unincorporated entity is an independent contractor, they are, for tax purposes, a sole proprietor. Independent reps are sole proprietors. 1099 people, gig workers are all sole proprietors. So I call these people accidental entrepreneurs, accidental business owners. They may not be entrepreneurs. I don't think my nephew is an entrepreneur. He may be. I mean, the fact that, you know, every job he's had, he was basically smarter than the boss. I think he's an entrepreneur. So, and that basically is why he went to Uber. He's like, oh, I can make my own hours. I could do not only Uber, but he can do Lyft. Well, now he's got two sources. That makes him a business owner. But, and this is my point, folks, he was in business and didn't even know it. And once he goes into business, he's got eyes on him from all over the place. Everybody's looking, because once he filled out that W-9 form with his social security number, that goes to the IRS. It's out there. Once it's registered, they know that you have to file your tax return as a sole proprietor, which is fine if you know that you're a sole proprietor and what it's going to cost you as a sole proprietor. So we have millions of accidental sole proprietors unknowingly started a business that will get a 1099 before they go to do their taxes that they may have never gotten before. They may not even know what a 1099 is. And sometimes what happens is that 1099 never gets to them, or they get it and they don't know what it is. They throw it out, they do their taxes, and then 18 months later, they get a bill in the mail from the IRS. I can't tell you how many times that has happened in my 37 years of being an accountant. People that had no idea coming in, you owe us $30,000 with letters from the IRS. And sometimes it's because they couldn't deal with it. Sometimes it gets to the point where they're about to lose their bank account or have their wages levied because they didn't know somebody like me. And they drove an Uber car and made, it's too damn complicated, folks. And it's by design. So that is the crux of the problem. And this has always been like this. And not for the reasons that most people think do businesses fail. Not because they don't have enough money. Not because of the bad economy. Not because of all those things that apply to corporations that have been around and already gone through the gauntlet, have already learned how to work within the machine. The machine, the government, insurance companies, banks, that make it almost impossible for a sole proprietor to succeed in business. It doesn't matter what numbers you look at. They're all understated. Forbes says 8 out of 10. I say 99.9 out of 100. That's right. Somebody that's never been in business before starts a business. It's probably 1 in 1,000 your chances that that particular business is going to survive. Because what happens, folks, is especially for brand new business owners, we start a business never knowing what's up ahead. How would we? If you've ever heard my ice cream truck story, that's classic. That's what happens with everyone. So I say 99.8, let's say. 2 out of 100 might not. It's more like 2 out of 1,000. Okay. my friend John Limbacher says they're all going to fail if you give them enough time. Well, that doesn't make mathematical sense, John, because if they all failed, there would be no businesses. So I respect you, John, but the math I don't think holds up. And this is what it is, folks. It is unbelievably complicated. So let's go through, and this is going to give you a good synopsis of what I'm saying, because the truth is that there's only a couple of alternatives when you're in business. And the first is sole proprietor. Now, let's go back to the accidental business owner, like my nephew. They don't have an alternative. They didn't even know that they were sole proprietor, so it's not an alternative. It's only an alternative if you know you're a sole proprietor and you have other options. There is nothing on the internet, government websites, small business, SBA, whatever. If you find something, show it to me. There is nothing that says if you are a sole proprietor by default, meaning you're just automatically one, you should investigate the other alternatives, because being a sole proprietor may destroy you. It's as simple as that. It may destroy you unless you do something about it. Now, if you're a sole proprietor and you look at all the alternatives and you say, I'm okay with this, I'm okay with the audit risk, I'm okay with no flexibility on how much I pay in FICA tax, I'm okay with the fact that people really don't respect sole proprietors in the business community, I'm okay with it. Well, okay, fine. That's one of your alternatives. Next, LLC. The biggest, probably, must be the biggest distraction when it comes to choosing an entity, because it shouldn't even really be an alternative for a brand new business owner. And I'm talking about somebody just starting out. They want to open up an ice cream stand or a restaurant or some kind of business. LLCs were not designed for the simple operating entity. LLCs were designed originally for passive investors that invested in things like, timber and cattle and coal mines and oil wells. Okay, and it had to do with the fact that they wanted the limited legal liability that a partnership didn't provide and get the tax benefits. See, there's something called a limited partnership, but when a limited partner can only deduct the amount that they've invested, their basis. Well, that meant they weren't getting any tax benefits, not the kind that investors want, the kind where, you get more in deductions than what you put in. And that's available in things like, real estate because of depreciation and stuff like that. The other side note that happened was you can use LLCs for all different types of business structures and for personal estate planning and stuff like that, where you may have, different types of owners that have disproportionate revenue sharing and capital contribution. But that is not your typical sole proprietor, folks. So when LLCs came into play about 20 years ago, it became the cool thing. I'm going to be an LLC. And what people didn't realize is that that alternative as an operating business entity did not provide them with any tax benefits because they were classified now as sole proprietors. So LLCs are an alternative to being a sole proprietor for legal purposes, because LLCs are still sole proprietors for tax purposes, unless you make an election to be taxed as something else. Which brings me to the conclusion if you want to be taxed as an S-corp, why would you become an LLC? All you've done is created another layer of paperwork. You haven't accomplished anything. Unless if you like LLC at the end of your name instead of Inc. or Incorporated, that's fine. But the clients that I have that have come to me as LLCs, I've converted them all to S-corps because that's what makes sense to me. Now, there's people out there that don't agree with me. Fine. Let's take any factual situation and put the numbers into this worksheet that I created for this exact purpose, and put the numbers in and see what comes out. And I guarantee you that 1,000% of the time, there's going to be tax savings. There's going to be the legal protection and everything else that I talk about in my itty bitty S-corp book. Okay. If you decide to go the corporate entity route because you took somebody in the know's advice, somebody that actually has prepared a lot of tax returns and actually had to answer or deal with some of those, the repercussions of those people that didn't know that they were sole proprietors, unless you've actually formed business entities. If you don't know as a fact, folks, from firsthand knowledge of either doing it yourself or working in a law firm or an accounting firm or a tax prep firm, if you haven't done it and you're going by like stuff you heard off the internet, or you heard it from a CPA or an attorney, step away. Don't give any advice because you are simply not qualified. You are not qualified. I'm sorry. But it's those professionals that think that they're qualified that are causing a lot of the problems. Even if you're an attorney and don't know about taxes, do not set people up with an LLC unless they have talked to a tax advisor. I can't tell you how many attorneys that I have done business with that were still sole proprietors because they didn't know that they could have elected to take their professional liability company and elect S status and get the tax benefits and the lower audit risk. And every time I've gotten an attorney as a client like that, I make them S-corps. So if you don't know about this stuff firsthand, please don't go leading people the wrong way. And don't send them to LegalZone because they're going to get the wrong advice. Okay, so if you're in the know, and when you become there is a step before becoming an S-corp, which is just a regular corporation. And that starts at the state level. And then it takes an analysis of your current tax situation to see if it's a good idea to elect S-corp status. So in my world, which has been specifically in this area of setting up business entities according to what is the best for that client's situation, it always comes down to a no-brainer. It's either a C Corp or an S Corp. And 95% of the time, it's an S Corp. The only time you want to do a C Corp is when the owner really has no taxable income at the time, and all they're going to have are expenses. When you're a C Corp, you can like put those expenses in a basket and carry them forward. See, when you're a sole proprietor, you can't do that. Not the same way. Not the same way. And if you are taking expenses as a loss on a sole proprietor return, you just put yourself at risk of being audited, because the IRS does not like sole proprietors that have losses. There's something called the hobby loss rule, folks. When you start a business, it's supposed to be for profit. I just turned down a client that had, she never made a profit, never. And her idiot accountant has been filing Schedule Cs with losses every single year. And I'm not talking about a couple of hundred, I'm talking about 50, 60, 80,000 a year. And it's a miracle that she hasn't been audited. But I couldn't take her on as a client because she expected the same kind of accounting. So that is my story, folks. I am sticking with it. If you want to reach out to me, you can always book a free chat. If you want to talk about your business, please don't book a chat to pitch me. It's Time with Joe. And like I said, my free mastermind is still free for the time being, folks. Mastermind with Joe DeChara, tomorrow, 2 p.m. God bless. That's my story, B. And I'm sticking with it. Thank you. Good night. I will see you tomorrow.